Let me take you back to 1935. Kansas City was this hub of jazz, but also, corruption and a whole lot of secrets. And way up on the 10th floor of the Grand Hotel President in room 1046, one of the city's darkest secrets was about to be written in blood. A secret that, even now, nearly a century later, is completely unsolved.
Okay, so this case is just absolutely bizarre and chilling. It's not just your typical murder mystery. No, this is a story about phantom killers, a seriously calculated cover up, and a victim who, in his very last moments, seemed to be helping his own killers get away with it. To really get what happened here, we need to look at the victim's final, very strange days. He checks in under a fake name, Roland T. Owen. With zero luggage, he specifically asks for a dark room on the inside of the hotel. And for 2 days, he just acts weird, sitting in the dark, telling the maids to please leave the door unlocked, and mentioning he was waiting for a friend named Dawn. Now, what's so striking here is the contradiction. I mean, the scene was pure carnage. Blood on the walls, the ceiling, the bed. The victim had been tied up with cord and tortured for hours. And yet, the room had been meticulously wiped clean. All of his clothes, his luggage, his toothbrush, his comb, gone. This wasn't just a murder, it was a complete erasure. The killers left a bloodbath, but they took his entire identity with them. And this right here is maybe the most baffling part of the whole thing. He was conscious when they found him, but with a fractured skull and a punctured lung, he refused to say who did it. His only explanation was this physical impossibility. So what was going on? Was he protecting someone? Or was he just so terrified that staying silent was a better option than telling the truth? So you can see the huge problem for the police, right? To solve the crime, they first had to figure out who the victim even was. That name on the register, Roland T. Owen, it was a total dead end. He was a ghost. And this just perfectly shows the first layer of the deception. It took police over a full year to uncover the truth. The man in room 1046 was actually Artemis Ogletree, a 17-year-old kid who'd run away from his home in Alabama. So this wasn't some man on a business trip. He was a teenager, hundreds of miles from home, using a completely fake name. Suddenly, all that strange behavior leading up to the murder starts to make a lot more sense, and a much more chilling kind of sense. He wasn't acting like a hotel guest. He seemed to be hiding, or even worse, being held against his will. That unlocked door, it probably wasn't an invitation, it was a command. He was waiting for someone he was clearly terrified to meet. All right, so now let's turn to the people who were interacting with Artemis from the shadows. These are the phantoms of the case, the mysterious individuals who likely orchestrated his death and then just vanished into thin air. First up, we've got Dawn. This is the name Artemis himself left on a note for his visitor. It's almost certainly the owner of that gruff voice a maid heard in the room, the one who told her they didn't need any towels. Dawn was the one Artemis was afraid of, and he was likely the one who bound and tortured him. Then you have this mysterious Louise. After Artemis died, she's the one who called a florist to send 13 roses to his funeral with that cryptic message. Was she a heartbroken lover or a guilty accomplice? Her name even popped up later in a tip from someone who claimed they overheard a Louise and a man named Don talking about how to fix a situation with a young man who had spilled the beans. And this is maybe the most chilling phantom of all, Jordan. Months after the murder, this guy calls Artemis's mother all the way in Alabama. He spins this elaborate tale about how her son is alive and has married a rich woman in Egypt. This wasn't some random prank call. This was a calculated move to stop the family from ever reporting him missing. The murder itself was brutal, yeah, but the cover-up that followed was it was cold, it was methodical, and it shows an incredible level of planning. Think about this for a second. Before he was even identified, someone anonymously sends what was, at the time, a pretty big chunk of cash to a funeral home. That $25 would be over $550 today. They didn't want this John Doe tossed in a pauper's grave. They wanted him in a marked grave. It's such a bizarre act of, what is that, guilt or just tying up a loose end? This quote, it's just so chilling when you understand the context. It's from one of several fake letters sent to his family, part of this campaign of deception that started after Artemis was already in a grave that his own killers paid for. This, for me, is the most shocking part.
For months, someone was actively impersonating Artemis, sending his poor mother typewritten letters from all over the country. Even though Artemis didn't even know how to type, they were pretending to be their victim to make sure no one would even start an investigation.
So, with all of these bizarre clues, the phantoms, the funeral money, the fake letters, why has this case stayed cold for almost 100 years? Why did the killers get away with it?
Well, the answer really lies with the city itself. Back in 1935, Kansas City was a wide-open town, totally controlled by the corrupt Pendergast political machine. Justice was basically for sale. So if the killers had connections to organized crime, the police would have been under huge pressure to just look the other way. It was the perfect environment for a murder to get buried.
Over all these years, three main theories have kind of risen to the top. An organized crime hit makes sense with the torture and the professional cover-up, but mob hits were usually quick and clean, not this prolonged ordeal. A lover's quarrel could explain the roses from Luis, sure, but not the incredibly complex cover-up. And mistaken identity? Well, that doesn't explain why the killers contacted Artemis's specific family. None of them fit perfectly.
And ultimately, that's where the case freezes. The key to the whole thing is figuring out who these phantoms were. We're just left with this puzzle box of a murder. A story of a teenage boy who stumbled into some dark corner of the American underworld and paid the ultimate price for a secret he was too terrified to even whisper as he lay dying.